Hello and welcome to another episode of the Top of Off Cricket Podcast. I am your host, Kevin Henry, and with me, I got Sam and Walter. So, fellas, couple of things. On the 1st of April, Darren Sammy will begin his reign as all formats coach for West Indies. We did an episode recently on that, but now he will fully be in charge, right? With that being said, the first class season has been ongoing. Round 5 was completed a couple of weeks ago. It's in a break that we most people, I would say, who are true and avid cricket fans don't agree with, right? But round 6 is about to kick off. Walter, what are your thoughts so far on the 5 rounds that we've seen?
It's been a mixed bag for me. First of all, I think that this break didn't do it justice. I think it's too long. You could have seen that the cricketers, like when the cricketers were starting to build, there was a momentum starting to happen among the cricketers. We had some of our people like Shai Hope and senior cricketers back in the fold, and that's a good thing. Um, all in all, I think looking at the stats, it's the same old play. I've seen a few we people that have jumped in. Jonathan Drake's, Joel Andrew. I think Drake's has 416 runs. He has been as we've been discussing, been fairly consistent in the eight innings. He has had 4 good scores.
Mm.
So he has 2 centuries and 2 half centuries. So as you said with John Campbell, he also has been fairly consistent. He has even been better. In the 7 innings, he's had um, 2 scores over 50 and 200s. You've said that you think that he should have had
So
800 runs.
when we look at Jonathan Drakes and John Campbell, right?
Mhm.
And I'll get to you in a second, Sam. Walter, let's take a look at Jonathan Drakes because I did an episode on him a few weeks ago, about a month and change ago. And up until that point, I liked how he looked, right? But
Mhm.
once Cricket West Indies moved away from the Kookaburra ball to the Jukes ball,
Mhm.
things have tailed off with him over the 2 matches. So, what do you think has been attributed to him not being as effective when we were using the Kookaburra ball?
See, the ball is starting to swing, and you gotta, once the ball is swinging, our players, you have to concentrate a little more. You have to longer, and you can't make mistakes. Right? So you make less. There's the less opportunity for you to make a mistake once that ball is swinging, right? And we must admit, even in the Caribbean at this particular time, the air in some, even though it's hot, we've had a lot of rain in some of the territories, in some of the games. And so that has made it even worse in terms because the place has gotten cooler, so it's starting to swing a lot more. Right. So and I think that's been a problem. I mean, it hasn't affected people like John Campbell, as you said, but the leader run scorer since then, Jason Mohammed, he hasn't made any runs. Granted, he came up against a very good, some decent attacks, but with Barbados, with people like Jason Holder and Kemar Roach. But yeah, he hasn't made any runs. And last on the batting, quickly, I must say, it's been for the top 10. I just look at the top 10. For me, it's been and then I'll answer the question there, get some more points on that question. It's been a lot of the same. At least I've seen at least people like Tevin Imlach and Jonathan, Josh De Silva and them have made some runs. Carl Bowen Tuckett again has made runs. He made some runs last year. And I think that at least he's shown some consistency. With the bowling again, I've counted, I think, like 6 or 7 spinners. Again, that's our problem. We've been seeing too many spinners um, taking wickets. At least we have Ali Muhammad again. he's taking wickets. You see, again, that's where we must look at with the ball swinging around more, and he swings the ball. He has gotten a lot because he's gotten 20 wickets. Jonathan Lane as well. Also, these are not express fast bowlers. Akeem Jordan, the people who can move the ball with the jukes ball, have been taking wickets.
Sam, what are your thoughts? I'll come back to John Campbell in a little bit, Walter. But what are your thoughts so far on the first class season? We're through 5 rounds. Guyana are on top right now, closely followed by Trinidad and Tobago. It's a neck and neck thing currently. So, and like I explained to Walter recently, I viewed the last round like how you would view a test match. When the third day of a test match, it's moving day, right? So I'm using the last round that took place, the 5th round, as moving day. Guyana and Trinidad made significant strides. What are your thoughts on the 5 rounds so far?
All right. So first of all, for me, I share the similar sentiments about this break. We've had a break just a few weeks ago, and then to have another break again, I don't understand it. I don't know what the reason for it is. If someone can explain it to me, I'd really be happy, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But I want to take in terms of the tournament, I want to take a different route in terms of what sticks out to me, right? Performances aside, I am happy, first of all, that we are in an era where you can turn on your computer or even your phone, and you can follow the games. I'm happy for that.
Absolutely.
Right? That's been going on for a few years now. Yes, yeah. So I'm glad we're able to continue that.
Gotta agree with
but
that.
That brings up another issue for me. The umpiring. I've seen too many questionable calls. And so when you move to the point where you are recording these things and people can watch, they can stop the live and they can rewind, and I think the time has come for our 4-day championship for us to have a third eye, have somebody else look at it up in the room.
Yeah.
So that's my comment on this thing.
Sam, it is quite timely that you brought up umpiring, because just a few days ago, Joel Wilson, our elite umpire on the elite panel, was given his pink slip, and the ICC said, "Thank you, Joel, but your services are no longer required." Joel Wilson has had some horrid game. He's had a torrid time in Test cricket, right? And I have watched too many games in our local, whether it's the CPL, the Super 50, or the 4-day games, where there have been some really, really bad mistakes by umpires. And you're asking yourself, is he cheating? I've actually asked that question. That's how bad the decision was, right?
Yeah.
That's how bad. And I'm looking at while I'm looking on the computer or my phone, and he's right there, right? But I'm not making my assertion after I've seen a replay. I'm saying it as it happened. No, that's terrible. That's not out, or that is out, right? So that is something that I honestly think that Cricket West Indies have got to take a really close look at our umpiring, because I think Joel Wilson, I think he's the only West Indian was the only West Indian on the elite panel. So some things have got to be done with regards to umpiring, and like you said, some help has got to be given. We are in that era. The umpires need help, and it needs to be given. I saw last year, one of the horrid decisions that I saw was what's his name from Jamaica? The young left-hander. Oh my goodness, his name is Jordan Johnson. They were playing against Guyana. The West Indies Academy were playing against Guyana. Jordan Johnson had just gotten to 50. Was looking really good. I was really happy for him. And he gets a ball that was tailing down the leg side, and he was given out. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, you can't be serious. You don't need help for this, right? But
Okay.
yeah, go ahead, Walter.
It's a lot of this. We played some first division cricket, and you it starts there. It starts there. I mean, you played against some players, and some players you could get them out, and just because there is a name, this and you wouldn't a player wouldn't be given out. And like I've got an older friend who um been following cricket. His father followed cricket. He's been a major part. He was a part of Jamaica cricket for years until he came to Canada.
Hmm.
And he was saying, like um Garfield Sobers. There's a particular umpire whenever Garfield Sobers faced him, he gave him up. Right. So and this is so this and I and we have to address our issues. We have to. It umpiring in the Caribbean, as Sammy said, and I agree with you, it's terrible.
It is.
But when it comes to Joel Wilson, I'm gonna give him some grace because I don't like the fact that how it made it look like he was one of the worst umpires in the world.
I don't
When
think it was.
and when some of the great so-called great West umpires did some give some really, really bad decisions. If we were to go back and honestly, and as you rightly said, as you said, in Jordan Johnson, sometimes you made it feel like if they were cheating. I remember, people when Ricky Ponting made a few hundreds against West Indies. I remember a few times. I can't remember the year. I can't remember if it was in
2003.
20, yeah, I can't remember the year, 2010 or around that time. I remember a few times he got plumb out LBW and he wasn't given and he went on to make a hole. And that's just before we had this era of referring it to the umpire, the DRS system being in place. So I am annoyed of West Indian umpires from the CPL right down. And I think it needs to change, and I think we need to address it, and we could make sure that our system is the best when it comes to that. But when you look around the world,
I
it left a
personally
lot to be
think
desired. Yeah.
I personally think umpiring in world cricket is not as good as it needs to be. There's a couple of umpires that are really really good, and the ICC actually got rid of one of the really good ones. I couldn't understand that him and Joel Wilson got their marching papers, but I couldn't understand them telling Michael Goff, hey, look, we thank you, it's time to go. That man is one of the most brilliant umpires that we have. So I don't understand the rationale behind it. I'm hoping that at some point in time the ICC gives some clarity on why he was let go. But coming back to West Indies cricket and the current 4-day tournament that's going on right now, I'm a little worried, right? I'm worried on the batting end and I'm worried on the bowling end. Here's why. There are some of our players that when they get to 40, 50, 60, 70, it's like they said, this is good enough, right? This is good enough. Then while we have seen 30-odd centuries, I think the number currently is 33 centuries, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's 33 centuries over 5 rounds. So we're averaging over 6 centuries per run. Doesn't take away from the fact that I think the batsmen are feasting on some pretty ordinary bowling. Bowlers are not hitting their lines and lengths consistently. They're not challenging batsmen long enough in areas that batsmen have weaknesses. And batsmen are cashing in. And that kind of worries me, because if if our first class tournament, in the absence of regular 8 tours, are going to be the finishing school, right? Where we say, good, we think you're ready for international test cricket, then it leaves a lot to be desired. And I will continue to say, I don't think West Indies first class cricket is fit for purpose. Because when these batsmen show up on the international scene, they are found wanting. Mikhail Louis of recent vintage, Alec Athenaeus of recent vintage, Casey Carty of recent vintage. I'm going to give, what's his name, a pass.
Who's that?
The other batsman from the Windward Islands.
Hodge?
Kavem Hodge. I'm going to give him a pass, right? I'm going to give. While I don't think Hodge is international quality, I think he's a fighter, right? He's a fighter. He's willing to fight. He's willing to stand up, and he's willing to battle. I don't see the same thing in Alec Athenaeus. I don't see the same thing in Mikhail Louis. I don't see the same thing in Casey Carty. Now, that is 3 out of 5 at the top. Now, imagine the amount, if you lose 3 out of 5 at the top early, imagine the amount of pressure that we are under on the first morning of a test match. Right? That is quite worrying. So lots of centuries being scored. You don't have any control over who is in front of you, who you're playing against. Jason Mohammed has scored tons of runs, but the minute the ball started moving,
yep,
he's in problems. Alec Athenaeus came back from Pakistan and can't hit the straps.
But that's a thing. Like why and as we said, is that we spoke about, there needs to be. It's a mind thing. It's a preparation thing. As you said, what is being done? Why can't Alec Athenaeus he perform consistently? Why can't Casey Cartley perform consistently? These guys have some talent.
Yeah.
The bowling is not the best bowling, but yet these guys who we expect to make runs are not making runs.
Here's the thing. It shows the gulf, right, between international cricket and first class cricket. It shows how good you need to be in order to play international test cricket. And West Indies, and there's too much of a gap between our first class system and the test scene.
Here's my thing, guys. We have, again, I think, and I'll keep going back to this point. We need to think outside of the box. I like the fact that we're able to see the cricket, and the fact that we've moved around this year. But I think that to get the best out of our cricketers, I think we need to play at least 3 rounds of cricket. First class cricket.
3 rounds, as in how many matches in total? Or how many times each team is playing each other?
3 times.
I agree. Your thoughts?
Right? I think that we should play 3 rounds, and let's say, for example, this year we're going to play in Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago got a lot of cricket grounds, a lot of first division grounds that we could say, okay, with the Trinidad Cricket Board, with the government of Trinidad, we would like to play your first round this year. What we're going to do along with is develop these grounds. So you have your first round where everybody stays in Trinidad. Right? We don't have to stay in the big fancy hotels. We take a break, and I think you kind of share the sentiment. Second, we go to Guyana, or we go to one of the cheaper places. Go to Trinidad, Antigua, we play again, we have grounds there, we play another round. And I think as you say this, we stop, we have our one-day tournament in another island. We're not playing one round, we're playing the same place, we're playing 2 rounds of one-day cricket. That happens, and we have to find a way. We stop, we have and then we go back to the final round of 4-day cricket. And I think if after a couple of years, we will be able to have the quality will improve because we're playing a long and one of the things I've noticed over the last couple of years in the male and female first class tournament that the tournaments have gotten better at the end.
Your thoughts to Walter's point, Sammy, in terms of the number of matches that are being played, host venues and stuff of that nature.
All right, so I take the point that we need more cricket. That's without, right? The question though becomes what would be the optimal amount? And if I understand what Walter is saying correctly, is that you mix the 4-day with the 1-day cricket, which I think is an excellent idea, right? Because you already have the cricketers in a particular space. Why not maximize the time, And while some administrators might say, well, there are 2 forms of cricket. The point is they are in competition. It's still a competition. It's still a serious game. There are points being awarded. People are bowling their hearts out, what have you. So I agree with that idea of, combining tournaments. Now, in terms of, yes, having it in one particular space, that too makes sense. I don't know, makes sense. I don't know necessarily how it would work within the context of other tournaments and other schedules, including the IPLs of this world, and of course, international cricket coming to the Caribbean or players going elsewhere. All these things have to factor into, But on the face of it, I don't have any problem. And especially when you see, when you think of the West Indies, we have a unique challenge. It is not a case like England where you can just jump on a train and you're in Manchester or you're in Leeds or where have you. We're separated by water. Good. And unlike in England, it's not cheap to fly planes around the Caribbean. You see?
For some reason.
You see? I mean, we're not on their level. So to have the cricket in a particular location and you play as many rounds in that one space is a no-brainer. And I think in the past we've seen that with some tournaments.
Yeah, so they have done it during COVID. But I have an interesting question. So back in the day, what Walter is saying, while it didn't happen how we're saying it should happen, where all the teams are in the one space, right? But teams used to play a 4-day game and a 1-day game, and then you move on to the next one, right? Do you think that West Indies cricket was in a better place when that was happening as compared to
now? True. And Kev,
we gotta be careful there, Kevin. Remember that was happening along with some other things too, right? So.
Oh, but let's expand on it. Other things like what are we talking about exactly?
No, right. So when we go back to that period, I mean, we've talked about this time and time again. West Indies cricket, yes, was played with more interest. Right? It was the grassroots game. Yeah, you look around, everybody playing cricket, right? We can talk about the involvement of in the sugar industry in places like Guyana and Jamaica. You understand? If you think about the West Indian fans and their involvement in the game. But now things are radically different, you see? So we just got to be careful, how we attach, it was better then, but because of some other things too. So it's hard to like pull out one thing and say, well, that made a significant difference when you have all these other positive things that helped our cricket. That's all I was saying.
Yeah. Your thoughts, Walter?
Sammy,
Mm.
in the 1980s, women used to go and sweep the drains in New Amsterdam where we from. We didn't have all the technology and all the things that we had. They used to sweep it. We know we age, all the ways the same age. And the last time the drain cleaned, I was a 16-year-old boy. I was a man with gray hair and child. So I say all that to say, we have a problem with sometimes looking down at the past. And I'm not saying that you're doing so. And we like to change. And I agree that we need to adapt to the modern world. But there are things that can still remain the same, things that worked. Now, I'll add this that came to mind, something I've been thinking about. With that first class season, we need to have a unified first division season. All of these things go hand in hand with the stats that we've seen. So yes, I know that in the smaller islands we need to have a first division um, 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 tournament that reflects their every day, because a lot of these people travel among themselves in the islands, and we don't understand. But I think that we need to have a unified first division tournament that is so if we have an elongated season, and this season I'm thinking about is starting in January and going till to June, right? Or a little longer. And at the same time, we're having our first division season. And once we have a proper system, I think the problem is that we need to look at the grassroots systems first. So we have a first division season and tournament that is filtering into the first right throughout the Caribbean.
I do agree with a unified or a first division tournament that looks the same in each territory. I absolutely do agree with that, right? It needs to mirror each other. Jamaica can't be doing their own thing. Trinidad can't be doing their own thing. Guyana, Barbados, everybody. And I think, me personally, I think that's like one of the problems that we have. Everybody's doing their own thing, right? So that in itself creates a problem for the development of the game, right? How do we, get everybody on the same page?
Fellas, let me jump down again. This is irritating me, and in terms of, I don't think we realize how we limit our cricket. Look at intercounty. Let's say intercounty in Guyana. So they've added 4 teams. There's a developmental team now, right? So they have 3 games.
I think there's 5 teams now, if I'm not mistaken.
5. So Essequibo Demerara.
So there's Essequibo Demerara, Berbice. There's a President's 11, and then there's another. Then I think there's another
a developmental team. Something.
Yeah, there's a developmental team. So I think there's 5 teams now.
Good. So we got 4 games.
Yeah.
My problem is the 4 games. I always thought, let's say for example, we just had Essequibo Demerara. Why are we just playing each other one time, and then we go into finals? And we need more cricket. You look at India. Yes, they got the money. If you look at Australia, yes, they got the money. But even before then, look at England. These people play a lot of cricket. Kevin, you and I were in England. We were living in England. We would have been playing cricket.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Our friends play cricket.
Yeah.
We live in England.
Yeah, I know.
And the point is that we don't play enough cricket. And as you guys said, as Sammy said, the problem is that we don't realize that cricket. I don't know if we're flagging and we're purists and we're from a bygone age and we're old men now. But I grew up thinking that cricket was always part of our thing, right? Yes, we didn't have the best gears, but we used to play. Yes, the thing about it is that we played so much of cricket that we even shared boxes, right? It's weird. You understand? So we love the game, and people can tell even somebody making a comment and they're gonna stop here. You know, hey, y'all really love the game.
Yeah.
Shout out to that person.
Yeah, cricket. Yeah. But you know, just to bring this thing full circle when we talk about the need for more cricket, right? In keeping with what India, for example, like I said the last time, I imagine there's a tournament every weekend, apart from your little training you're doing during the week. But the need for more cricket is not only about our cricketers, our umpires.
Yeah.
So we have an issue with the umpiring, but if they're not getting enough chances to umpire, how do we expect them to do a good job out there? Right? And I respect those fellas, you know, because we have the benefit. We sit in the stands, we watching the thing on YouTube, and we could say, oh, you know, that was a bad call. We could rewind it.
Yeah.
Live too, you know, we could stop and you could rewind and see what's going on. They don't have that benefit. But at the same time, we want to see them do better. You know? And to take some pressure off of them too.
Yeah. Here's my take on that, right? I think we need more cricket of consequence. Too much of the cricket that's being played currently don't do anything much, in my view, for the development of the player. Yes, it might benefit their pockets, right? Because it's T20 cricket and T10 cricket, and every minute you open the Facebook or Instagram or whatever newspaper, you see some kind of little cricket they're playing some way. And I just think a lot of those tournaments are not of consequence, and they don't add any value to West Indies cricket, to the players necessarily. I was watching some highlights recently of the T20 tournament in Trinidad, right? Every day the Redforce would post their highlights of the games. And I'm seeing some shots being played by batsmen, and all I can do is this. It's like you're in the street and you're just swinging for the hills. That's all you're seeing. I get it, it's T20 cricket, right? But
it's liquid.
Exactly. There's a reason why Virat Kohli is successful. You understand me? There's a
steady base.
Exactly. There's a reason why Josh Butler is successful.
Steady base.
You understand me? There's a reason why Chris Gayle was successful. There's a reason. I'm seeing batsmen. The leg is in one direction, the head is in a different direction, and the bat is swinging in a different direction, and then you're like, what is going on?
Okay, so that comes back to basics, you know.
Yeah.
I recall some time ago reading about Brian Lara and his batting. So he's a left-hander. Left-handed batter or batsman, right? But he's right-hand dominant, so everything else he does with the right hand.
Hey, bold right hand.
But guess what? So batting left-handed, the top hand, the dominant hand.
This is right hand.
Is the right hand, yes?
Yeah.
So how many of our batsmen, you know, in the early stages are they taught these things that, you know, really and truly the top hand has got to be the dominant hand?
Yeah.
Right? So we see a man batting, he's a right-hander, but his dominant hand is the top hand where he should really be, you
Yeah.
know. And then the bottom hand is just to guide the bat or what have you. That little thing can make a difference in how well a person progresses as a batsman. Or as a batter, I should say, because we don't say batsman and so on anymore. Batter, sorry.
Given all of this, going back to our first class season, our discussion, I'll pick on one cricketer that I think has immense talent but has not lived up to the talent has that come truly to fruition. And I look at Odin Smith. I watched a few of the matches. And that fellow has the ability to bowl 85, 90 miles per hour and to bat and to change the game. If there a fellow and again, Odin Smith is a microcosm. His where he is a microcosm of the wider problems of West Indies cricket. Right? Because he is he went straight into the T20 scene. He fell away because he didn't have the foundation and to learn to bat properly. But I saw him play a 50-something and for Jamaica, I forget, I can't remember against it was CCC or one of them or West Indies Academy. And he actually, because they expected him to just come and boof the ball, but he batted for a bit and then he played some shots and he took Jamaica to a safe place. So I think that he is one of he is like symptomatic of what is wrong with West Indies cricket. And this is we've had, and let's give them the roses. We've had 50 centuries and 33 something centuries and 30 something centuries, and I think it's almost um I don't think it says 64 here, but I don't think it's right.
64 half centuries.
Yes, I don't think ChatGPT sometimes is that right. I don't. But I think that we've had a lot of centuries, and I think we've done good. But I think that a lot of those centuries, half centuries, could have been centuries. And I think if we really give a deeper dive, I think we've had a lot of 30s and 40s as well. That could have been.
So I will say this, and I will use you mentioned Odin Smith, but I will use John Campbell as the example, right?
Mm-hmm.
John Campbell is a very exciting opening batsman. He's someone, when you look at him and you go like, you start to think Roy Fredericks, right? You start to think like Chris Gayle. He has all the shots, right? The difference between John Campbell and Chris Gayle and a Roy Fredericks per se is the difference in appetite, the difference in wanting it. You understand me? I've watched John Campbell several times this season, because the reason why I'm watching John Campbell is because I think there's a spot at the top of the West Indies batting order, right? And he is about the best candidate right now. I saw one innings where he got to 50 and he played bat up and catch. I saw another innings where he made another half century and he played bat up and catch. I saw an innings where he had, I think it was 90 odd or 80 odd, and he played bat up and catch. Then recently I saw him play another good innings. He got to 100, and I think it was the very next delivery, he played bat up and catch. These innings that I'm talking about, right, is what is wrong with West Indies cricket today. And it's what we're seeing throughout the first class season. Batsmen not putting a premium on their wickets, right? And saying, I am in, and you're really going to have to do your utmost best to prize me out. Odin Smith, it's a lack of capacity, right? When you play that much short form cricket, where you're constantly in adjustment mode and you're not in a place where, okay, you can sit, if you're bowling, for him in his case, if he's bowling, he can go in and he can work a line, work a length, and stay there for a prolonged period. He didn't really have that, right? So it's a matter of capacity, and that is with a lot of cricketers in the West Indies currently. It's a lack of capacity. And I take it back. I always like to take it back to how they were raised in the game. Sammy spoke earlier of the top hand, right? If you look at a lot of our batsmen and see how they get out, it's the little things. It's the little detail. The detail that Brian Lara was very good at paying attention to. So we're in this era of T20 cricket, and a lot of batsmen are trying to beat the cover off of the ball. But Brian Lara showed that you can beat the cover off of the ball, but you can still keep it on the ground. Right? You could still keep it on the ground. I watched Brian Lara in a Masters tournament recently, and it was like he never left the game.
Yeah, true.
It was like he never left the game.
Played right.
He's still taking those gaps. Taking those gaps.
Muscle memory. And you know, I don't know if you guys had a chance to read his book just yet. That came out last year.
I haven't had a chance.
You know what Larry used to do as a child? He would use the plant pots as players, right? As fielders.
Yeah.
And so his goal was to hit the ball away from the plant pots. Now, I mentioned this to say that to do some very basic things, right? You don't necessarily need all kind of fancy equipment, it's just the presence of mind and the willingness to put in the effort and to think. That's what he did. So he even joked in his book, I don't know who he was hitting at. He said, some people play beautiful shots, or they play the ball to the fielder.
All right, I must say, like, we've been in a book. Sammy gave me this one called Crickonomics, and I'm on this, the Anatomy of Modern Cricket. We got to talk about this one. It's a beautiful thing.
Yep.
Talking about in terms of one of the standout things is Sammy would say is that batting has been a class issue.
That was an interesting.
And Kev, you like it because batters tended to be people that have more access to money. So cricket is a very classist game.
Yes, it is. It is.
So it's interesting.
Generally speaking.
Yeah.
Generally speaking. Generally speaking.
But we've been going for a minute. I want to get some closing thoughts. Sammy, your thoughts. How do you think the tournament will end up? Do you see Guyana winning? I think they're just a couple of points. It's a matter of bowling points or batting points ahead of Trinidad. How do you see it ending up?
So that's a good question. I put it this way. Yes, Guyana is in a good position to take it, but anything can go wrong. But more than that, whatever goes wrong, should something go wrong, the point is Guyana is still up there. That's the important thing for me. And so, if they don't win because it's so close and maybe a match gets rained out or what have you, I won't lose any sleep over that. Guyana is still a dominant team. That is one. But more importantly, what I want to see is our players do well. I mean, when you look at the rankings in terms of the batsmen, for example, right? Are we seeing our test cricketers doing as well as we would want them to do? Right? Yes, Jason Mohammed is at the top there, but we know he's not going to be playing red ball cricket when the Australians come down here, right? Josh De Silva and Imlak are close, right? And it's interesting, they both have averages in the 70s, right? So I don't know if De Silva is hoping to get back in, but I don't see that happening, So for me, the issue is not who wins the tournament, right? Guyana is on top, like I said, but anything can happen in this next round or what have you. But for me, my concern is our players. and what our selectors would have to work with for the near term, but also for the future.
Walter?
I don't generally care who wins. I know Guyana's playing their Jumbie team next in the Leeward Islands. And honestly, I expect the Leeward Islands to push or even beat Guyana. I know they'll not take it for granted. I would honestly like Trinidad, probably have a different team win, or let's have a very competitive last two rounds. That's what I want. Competitive, even if Guyana wins, they must not win by beating up anybody. Right? It must be competitive. I want to see more hundreds. I want to see fast bowlers take some wickets. I want to see proper cricket, fellas. That's what I would like to see. And that's what we need. That's what West Indies cricket needs. Proper cricket. And for me, I if I'm betting, I'm betting on Leeward Islands beating Guyana in the next round.
I will maintain that I don't care about who wins the West Indies first class season, right? I absolutely don't care, because to me, we should be more focused on development, right? And providing the right environment, the right intensity for our players to operate in. With that being said, I was paying attention to the Australian State Shield final that ended, I think, was yesterday, you know, and it was very, very, very competitive. Queensland versus South Australia. Big. A lot of the matches prior to that, I know you guys don't pay attention to cricket like I do around the world, but a lot of the matches, the crowds were sparse, just like in the West Indies first class season. But that state final, the stands were packed. South Australia won out for the first time in 29 years. The last time they won, Darren Lehman was playing. His son was the top batsman for South Australia this time, and he was involved in that game. He had a very good game. But I say all that to say this, and Walter echoed those sentiments earlier. What we want is competitiveness, right? We want good, hard cricket over the period of 4 days. That match went down to the wire. These next two matches across the region, I would like to see each and every match go down to the wire, right? And that's just one of the ways that the players and West Indies cricket can regenerate interest in the first class game. I think what is lacking is the competitiveness. Too many games are finishing inside 2 days, 3 days, or even if it goes to the 4 day, the winner is already a foregone conclusion. What we need is both teams competing down to the wire and pulling people out of their homes or pulling people from in front of YouTube to the grounds. That is what I would like to see over these next two rounds. The matches being very, very competitive, high intensity, bowlers putting a premium on every delivery, batsmen putting a premium on their wickets. That is what I would like to see. I could care less who wins the $250,000.
One thing, guys, I forgot to say. I think that thus far, based on performance, right? And I'm jumping out now. The team for Australia, the first seven: Brathwaite, Campbell, Athanaze, Chase, De Silva, Hope, Imlach. Based on performance, let's see if this can be changed.
You're trusting that Athanaze is going to survive?
I'll give him the fact that he has not failed at test level as compared to everybody else. He has been So I'm giving him a chance.
In the case of Alec Athenaeus, so let me say this first. I'll give you my team on Wednesday, my top 7 on Wednesday, right? But in the case of Alec Athenaeus, I don't think he has did his spot justice.
I can't argue that. I can't argue against that. He needs some runs in the next 2 runs.
If he doesn't get selected, I am not losing any sleep.
Well, yeah. But I'm trying to see who I could put though. But anyway, let's see. Let's see.
Sammy got a tough one.
He does have a tough one. He does have it will be a tough series and a tough selection process, right?
The openers already fixed themselves. I don't think nobody else. I forget about who else. For me, I think it's Braffett and Campbell.
I agree with you. Anyways, guys, it was good having you guys tonight. Interesting conversation about the 4-day tournament and everything that surrounds it. And we took a really deep dive into, what's affecting what. Appreciate you guys' presence tonight. As usual, it in we veins, West Indies cricket. We love it. We're going to die for it. See you guys next time.
Yes, guy.
Yeah, man. Take it easy.
Yeah.
All right.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Top of Off Cricket Podcast. I am your host, Kevin Henry. And with me, I got Sam and Walter. So, fellas, couple of things. On the 1st of April, Darren Sammy will begin his reign as all formats coach for West Indies. We did an episode recently on that, but now he will fully be in charge, right? With that being said, the first class season has been ongoing. Round 5 was completed a couple of weeks ago. It's in a break that we most people, I would say, who are true and avid cricket fans don't agree with, right? But round 6 is about to kick off. Walter, what are your thoughts so far on the 5 rounds that we've seen?
It's been a mixed bag for me. First of all, I think that this break didn't do justice